A mysterious hooded figure fleeing the scene of a deadly crime, a woman caught on camera being kidnapped at work, and the last known footage of several people before going missing or turning up dead. These are disturbing CCTV videos that caught unsettling things. The hooded man you're looking at in this series of CCTV clips is the person of interest in the death of a man named Scott Radigan. On January 17th, 2020, police were called to an apartment building in Arlington, Virginia, for a reported cardiac arrest. Scott Radigan's sister had gone into his bedroom after not hearing from him and found him with severe trauma to his upper body. Medics pronounced the 24-year-old dead at the scene. The surveillance footage is the only real lead, but it is limited. The apartment building had been going through renovations and the lobby cameras weren't working. So the only footage police got was from security cameras on the street, showing a person of interest leaving the area around the time it happened. The individual is described as a white male, roughly 5'6" to 5'8", dressed in all black, backpack. He also has a distinct pigeon-toed gait with his feet turned a bit inward. It's possible he was walking like that intentionally though, to throw investigators off. Apparently a lot of people close to Scott believe this was not a random act, but a professional hit. But as of recording this video, the case is still unsolved. On February 1st, 2012, 18-year-old Samantha Koenig was working the closing shift at Common Grounds, a small coffee shack in Anchorage, Alaska. The CCTV inside the kiosk shows a man, later identified as Israel Keys, walking up to the window. In the footage, the interaction looks normal for a few minutes. Samantha is seen moving around the small space, getting a drink ready, and talking back and forth with the customer at the window, but then the man pulls out a weapon before jumping through the small service window to get inside. Once he's in the kiosk, he forces Samantha to turn off the lights. Camera quality wasn't great to begin with, but now it's even harder to make out. What is clear though is there's a struggle taking place. You can see him tie her hands and lead her out in the parking lot. Keys later confessed he had been planning an abduction for a while and chose that spot because it was isolated and he knew she'd be alone. After he took her keys, took her life, and then went on a cruise. When he got back from his vacation, he opened Samantha's eyes and took a photo of her holding a recent newspaper to make it look like she was still alive. He used that photo to demand $30,000 in ransom from her family. He was finally caught in Texas after he started using her debit card at different ATMs. Eventually he told police about several other people he unalived across the country before taking his own life in his cell. These are the last images of Rebecca Corium, captured on a CCTV camera on a cruise ship. Rebecca Corium was a 24-year-old crew member working on the Disney Wonder cruise ship when she vanished on March 22nd, 2011, while the vessel was off the coast of Mexico. Now, the actual video hasn't been released to the public apparently. I mean, if you look for it, you'll mostly just find frames and news segments describing what's in the footage. The images we do have come from a camera in a crew lounge around 5:45 a.m. In these stills, Rebecca is seen using an internal ship phone. She's wearing oversized men's clothing, a detail her family found suspicious because the clothes were not hers. From the descriptions of the full video, she looks visibly distressed, pacing and rubbing her forehead during the call. A male crew member eventually walks by and asks if she's okay, and she reportedly mouthed, "Yeah, fine," before hanging up and walking away. That was the last time anyone saw her. When she didn't show up for her shift a few hours later, the ship was searched, but she was nowhere to be found. Disney's investigators figured she was swept overboard by a rogue wave on the crew pool deck, but her family doesn't buy that, pointing out that the railings in that area are high and the water was calm that morning. There are also reports of her credit card being used months after she disappeared. There are tons of theories as to what happened here, but unfortunately the case has yet to be solved. So this image was posted to Reddit by user PHFM 4 months ago, with the caption reading, "Friends trail cam in North Carolina." Now, I would be pretty alarmed knowing this thing was lurking around in the dark anywhere near me. The immediate thought is, well, that doesn't look right. This is a hairy creature standing on 2 legs, must be Bigfoot. Well, probably not. I mean, this could easily be a black bear. Bears do stand on their hind legs, and it could be hunching over, which is why you can't see its head, but even still, there's just something creepy about this image. It just looks oddly human to me. It's the best way I can describe it. What do you think though? Bear, Bigfoot, werewolf, skinwalker, and mid-transformation? Let us know in the comments. Back in July of this year, the Instagram account Lower Florida Bucks posted this series of images here with the description reading, "I've had some strange trail cam pics sent in through the years, but these from Roberts Lowell might just take the cake. He got pics of this person/creature on 2 separate cameras and swears they're legit. He also said these were taken on a property 12 miles from the nearest town. What do y'all make of it? And that's a very good question. What do you make of whatever this is? It's hard to make anything out because of how blurry the figure is. Clearly it was darting around at a good speed. I can say this though, it doesn't look human, at least not exactly. This next Reddit post is from 2 months back. JT245 writes, "Hello. After looking at some old photos from a trail camera, I noticed a silhouette in the background and a white spot on the second photo. My brother was alone and has no explanation. What are your theories?" Now, take a real close look at these images and see if you can spot anything. It's hard to notice at first, but look at the middle right-hand side of the first image. We'll zoom in and circle it for you. Okay, so it's a shape that sort of has a form you might be able to recognize as a person, maybe. This wouldn't be all that strange on its own, but now take another look at the second picture. Whatever that shape is, it isn't there anymore. Now, I couldn't spot the white spot the uploader described in the second picture, but if you can find it, let us know down in the comments. But that figure is kind of strange. It's pretty small. Some people have said it looks like almost maybe it could be a fae. I don't know. So this next story may be not a creature captured on trail cam, but it's equally, if not more disturbing. This woman here was captured on a deer cam in the woods, going back and forth in the dark for hours, barefoot. The owner of the property was pretty alarmed when he saw the images, making a post online about it, reading, "Does anyone recognize this girl/woman? She appeared on my trail camera in July of this year at 5 a.m. She was barefoot and appears to be running. She isn't in any trouble with me, just curious who she is, what she was doing, and if she's okay. If you recognize her, please message me. I've been baffled by this for a month, mainly because the woods can be tough walking with boots. I contacted police as soon as I discovered the photos. They were baffled as well." Now, some commenters say she may just have been on a run, but apparently there are no trails nearby, and the area she was running in has a thicket that the property owner's dog won't even go through. It's just thick vegetation. No one would be wandering through there, especially at night barefoot. So it's just all very strange and kind of concerning. At the time of this recording, Redditor Apart Operation 329 just made this post a little over a week ago with the caption, "Humanoid found on trail cam." They went on to write, "My friend sent this to our group chat a while back. I don't know why I just now bothered to post it, but I wanted to know if anyone here could identify this thing. We can't tell if it's a person or not. Not sure if this is the right sub to put this in, but any help is appreciated." Now, what we see here is immediately off-putting. To me, this thing looks way too strange and thin to be human, but a lot of commenters mention that the figure does look like a human woman, just a really thin woman who probably isn't okay. It looks like she may have wounds on parts of her body, and she's clearly emaciated. Some think this person may have needed help and that the uploader should contact the police, but I don't know what good that will really do. Personally, it's hard to make anything out from this image, and it's from 2022. So this was someone in distress. I just hope they made it home okay. Police had a very unsettling encounter with the voice actor from Pocahontas, and something happens which you won't be expecting. A weirdly shaped UAP was also just spotted in Iraq, and it seems to resemble something spotted all over the world for the last 2 decades. These are more mysterious, unexplained things caught on camera around the world. So this first video comes out of Ohio. It's police body cam footage taken during the arrest of a woman named Irene Bedard back in 2022, but it's recently been going viral. Now, the name Irene Bedard may not be all that familiar to you, but Pocahontas probably is. She's the actress who did the voice, so kinda a big part of a lot of our childhoods. The video isn't gaining traction because of her legal problems though, but because of something that happens later in the video. So police were trying to calm Bedard down. They approached her as she was standing at the other end of a hallway, and that's when we hear her yell something unsettling. She says repeatedly, "I don't know what that is."
Bob! I don't know what that is.
So she's very clearly frightened by something. We just don't know what. And according to her words, she doesn't know either. She runs past the camera, and that's when something eerie shows up on the floor, some sort of black morphing shape. This video was posted just last month on Reddit. It was captured in Iraq. Clearly something is gliding across the sky. Now, is it a drone? Well, that's probably your first thought, right? But I don't know. It doesn't really look like one to me. I mean, it could be a drone of some kind, but is it some sort of experimental military one or something? The shape is just so strange. Some commenters said it gave off Metapod vibes. I can kind of see that. Others say it looks like that jellyfish UAP video taken back in 2018, and if you need a reminder there, well, this jellyfish-shaped thing had been flying over a US Joint Operations Base, also in Iraq, and the Pentagon officially classified this thing as an unknown aerial phenomenon. So that certainly adds a bit more mystery to this newer video, but in case you're still thinking that it's just a regular drone, well, it also looks similar to something spotted in this next video taken 2 decades earlier. So this strange clip was captured back in 2005 in Phoenix, Arizona. This one has a very strange shape as well. Doesn't look like your stereotypical flying saucer, but it is not a plane or a satellite either. I almost want to say kinda looks humanoid, like a dude flying around in a jetpack maybe? I don't know. It's too far away to really make out the details, but a commenter posted a link to this video as well, a UAP with a similar shape, but we can make out more odd details. This video was taken in Milan, Italy in 2012. Luckily, some people online have a lot of time on their hands, and a Redditor went in and took some screenshots of the thing and enhanced them. And wow, right? That certainly looks pretty alien. All the weird lights on it, but they're not like little lights. Flashing ones, they're more like just the color of the thing itself. Very bizarre looking. Moving on to some ghostly footage now. Usually ghost videos are pretty hard to make out, but this one is just so clear that I straight up thought it was just a person walking across a room, and I was like, what's supposed to be paranormal about this? Well, according to Chase the Bass, who uploaded the clip to TikTok, yeah, that's not him walking across the room. In fact, he has no idea who or what this is. And the more you watch the clip, the more you realize that there's something off about it. I know it's kind of low quality home security camera footage, but this figure doesn't really look fully solid, especially when compared to all the furniture surrounding it, and then it just completely vanishes once it's in the middle of the room. You'll notice the kitchen light flicks off as soon as it walks in, too. Pretty spooky stuff. What do you all think of this one? Is it staged? Was something up with the camera? Or could this be a genuine piece of paranormal footage? Notice anything strange about this next clip? Yeah, where the hell did that dog come from? So this video comes out of Chile. It was posted to YouTube back in 2015. What I like about this one is that there's a very good reason for someone to be filming the road. There's a street race happening. Sometimes I watch, supposed real ghost or cryptid footage, and I'm like, all right, but why did they have their camera out in the first place? Anyway, this one looks pretty convincing to me, but what do you all think? Let us know down in the comments. This is the last known footage of a man named Stephen Kocher. Back in 2009, Stephen was living in Salt Lake City, Utah. He'd quit his job and moved down south to St. George, hoping to start fresh, but things weren't exactly going great. He couldn't find steady work, money was tight, and life was just kinda stuck in neutral. Then, out of nowhere, on December 12th, he up and left town. The next day, Stephen calls a couple of his friends and tells them he's in Las Vegas, but he doesn't say why he's there or what he's doing. That's the last time anyone ever heard from him. A few days later, police find his car parked in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Henderson, Nevada. Nothing's been stolen, nothing really seems off. He even left wrapped Christmas presents in the back seat for his family. A doorbell camera from a house in the neighborhood caught Stephen on the day he disappeared. You see him park his car, calmly cross the street, walk down the sidewalk, and then just walk out of frame, and that's it. That's the last confirmed sighting of him. No one knows why he was in that neighborhood. It's not a rough area, it's not near anything he was known to be involved with, and he didn't know anyone who lived there. His phone was pinging towers for a couple days after that, but then it just went dark. Some people think he might have faked his own disappearance, like maybe he was just overwhelmed with everything. He was broke, wanted to start over, but it's been over a decade now, and there's never been a single clue about where he went. If you heard a voice calling to you from another room, only it sounded just like you, what would you do? This clip was posted to TikTok by Andy Winehouse, and I don't even care if this is staged, it just gives me the goosebumps. Just the idea of hearing your own voice calling to you from the next room, it sends a shiver up my spine. The uploader also wrote in the comments, "For extra clarification, I thought it was the TV or my wife watching one of my TikToks at first. I called her immediately when I realized it wasn't her in the other room. I waited about 3 minutes and the voice stopped, but footsteps continued for about 12 more minutes." In Plattsmouth, Nebraska, there's a place called the Museum of Shadows. A lot of creepy things are said to go on here, but this video actually showed up on Fox News. So in the early morning hours of February 2nd, 2018, museum owner Nate Ratterman checked the cameras and spotted something straight out of a ghost movie. Inside one of the museum rooms, a small ball, what paranormal folks call a trigger object, starts moving. Of course, there was no one else in the room at the time. The ball doesn't just do a lame little, roll either. It lifts off the ground like it's being picked up by some unseen hand, and then it gets chucked across the room. You'll notice at one point it's sitting on the floor and then bounces into the air. It's not being thrown from off camera or something. The museum sits in a building from 1881 that used to be a saloon, with a brothel upstairs where a number of people reportedly died. This next video comes out of a hospital in Mexico. Here we see a doctor being filmed with what has to be a mid-2000s flip phone. Just gotta love that early YouTube 240p quality. Suddenly though, something weird happens in the background. Watch the double doors behind the doctor. You can clearly see a dark figure pass by. It's not a light trick, it's not a camera glitch. Something clearly moves behind those doors. Well, alright, so no big deal. It's doors leading to a room someone just walked by. Well, the camera operator reacts. Clearly wasn't expecting anyone to be back there. So he walks over and opens the door to check things out. And inside we see, well, nothing. At least no living person. It's just this empty room with medical equipment, and one piece of gear is slowly rolling, like something just brushed past it. And if you look closely back at the shadowy figure and how it moves past the door again, it almost looks like it doesn't walk, it kinda glides. You don't get that up and down motion when a normal person walks, it's just fast and silent. Reddit user Baroness von Schrader posted a couple of photographs taken at their aunt's wedding in 1966, and one of them looks very off. The first picture is normal, just a happy bride and groom. The second picture looks normal at first glance, but look at it for more than a couple seconds, and there's clearly something off about this image. Just what is that ghostly looking figure in between them? Clearly the uploader didn't know who it was because they took the time to post these images. Well, the Redditor also attached one more image, a photo of their aunt's grandmother, who'd been dead long before the wedding photos were taken. What do you all think? Did the bride's long dead grandmother make a visit from beyond the grave? This final clip comes from Reddit user Stuart James Author, who'd been carrying out a paranormal investigation at Oxford Castle. He hadn't noticed anything odd while filming, but when he reviewed the footage later, he noticed a couple very unsettling things. First, while passing by a window, he spotted what really looks a lot like a ghostly face peering in at him. Take a look. So, did you spot that? Here it is zoomed in. This next one is kinda hard to make out, but as he turned a corner leading into a dark hallway, he spotted what looked like a humanoid figure leaning up against a wall. He said he hadn't seen it when he was filming initially.
Starting things off at number 10, we have The Purge. I think the more footage I see from Ring doorbells, my fear of the dark has only intensified. Those things never seem to catch anything nice. There's a Reddit user who further made me want to never leave my house in the dark. The user that goes by the fabulous username of Fat and Depressed shared that between the hours of 12 AM and 4 AM, he got 4 notifications on his phone that his doorbell had detected a visitor. Immediately upon seeing those, I would absolutely be unsettled. When he checked the doorbell's camera the first 3 times, there was nothing. He went on to say that he was thinking it was some sort of stray dog or cat or animal of some kind setting off the motion sensor. That was until the 4th notification came along. This time when he checked the camera, a face showed up on the screen. He also posted a photo of said face, and oh man, not what you want looking back at you at 4 AM. It looked like a guy in his 50s with a face that appeared to be painted white. It could have just been the night lighting on the camera, but his face was white. He also looked like he was wearing black eyeliner all the way around his eyes, and he was standing with his hands behind his back. It seriously looked like a scene from The Purge. Number 9, clowns. Remember the creepy clown epidemic in like 2014 that had people dressing like clowns and making us all scared scared to leave our houses? Well, you can imagine the chilling security footage that came with that phase. One video in particular comes from none other than Jacksonville, Florida, and whether it was a prank or not, I don't like the video regardless. The footage comes from a home security camera and it shows the porch of a house with an extremely creepy looking clown standing there looking at the camera. The clown is dressed in an all-white clown jumpsuit, white face, and some clown makeup not suitable for a children's birthday party. For most of the video, the clown just stands there staring at the camera, only moving slightly to tilt his head further to the side. Then the clown decided to take the poor homeowner's pumpkin and start punching it quite aggressively, I have to say. I'm sure when they woke up and saw that video, they wish they never had. Without the security camera, they would have just noticed their pumpkin smashed, but no, thanks to technology, they got to watch a creepy clown stare into their eyes while doing it. I think if I saw this video on my porch, I would be moving out right away. Number 8. Where's the exit? User Dr. Beso on Reddit shared a story that just might send a shiver up your spine. He said that he worked as a doctor in a UK hospital, and on a particularly quiet night shift, the nurses told him a story of another doctor at the hospital. The story went that the doctor was running to a crash call when a woman stopped him to ask which way the front entrance was. The doctor directed the woman and kept hustling to the patient. When he got there, he said it was the woman who had stopped him to ask for directions. The woman ended up not making it in the end, but they just had to check the security footage. The whole encounter was caught on the cameras, except the story told on the footage has a slight difference to the one the doctor shared. The camera showed him running, stop midway down the hall, and gesture to the exit while saying something. The only problem was there was no woman on the video. I don't even know how you could explain that one. I hope they gave that doctor a nice long weekend after that. At number 7, stolen phone. This person shared a story that started as a stolen phone and ended in a creepy mystery. He said that they had to call the cops while his girlfriend's cell phone was stolen off the porch of their apartment. He explained that the apartment is a room sectioned off on the first floor of an old mansion with a fenced-in porch. When the officer arrived, he asked to see the surveillance tapes, and the maintenance man let them come along to help the cops with the timestamps to narrow down the footage. Unfortunately, they did not see the person who took his girlfriend's phone. That being said, right about the time they expected to see someone grab the phone, they did see a man. Apparently it was not a resident, as there are only 4 and they all know each other in the building. The man appeared to be running frantically from something, and at full force he entered the only door of the building and never left. Even after over 24 hours of footage. I would have simply left all my belongings behind and found a new apartment after that. Number 6, out of thin air. Etchy shared on Reddit that he was one of the people going through footage from security cameras outside of Pulse nightclub before, during, and after the horrible tragedy that happened there in 2016. While I'm sure all of the footage was quite disturbing, he also claimed to have found something a little supernatural. He said there were so many sad and disturbing things to be seen. The strange one, however, was a wounded man that appeared out of nowhere. Apparently the mystery man waved his hands for help and cops came over to carry him to safety. Etchy shared that he tried numerous times to rewind and find where the man came from, but he was either just there or he wasn't. He didn't crawl to where he ended up, he just appeared. I bet anything that he was sitting with that footage for ages, going back and forth, frame by frame, slowly driving himself crazy. I don't know how he ever stopped rewatching it. I think I would have just become consumed by the mystery of it all.
So this is a photograph of a snake, of course, I mean, big deal. But the thing is, this image was supposedly captured from a helicopter. Here it is zoomed out. In August 1959, a Belgian military helicopter was heading back toward Kamina, flying over the Katanga region in what's now the Democratic Republic of the Congo. On board were pilot Colonel Remy van Laird, along with 3 other men. One was an engineer named Adjutant Kint, who had his camera on him. From roughly 400 feet up, 2 of the men spotted something near a wrecked termite mound that looked like a fallen tree trunk. The problem was, it was moving. By the time they got Van Laird's attention, they'd already flown past it, so Van Laird turned the helicopter around and dropped lower. And that's when it became clear they were not looking at wood. It was a massive snake. Van Laird made several low passes while Kent rushed to get a photo. He managed one single shot before they were forced to leave, running low on fuel. And the last thing they wanted to do was land near that massive serpent. All 4 men estimated the snake at about 14 meters long, or around 45 feet. It sounded ridiculous, but locals already had a specific name for snakes that big. Normal pythons were called moma, but giants like this were known as pumina. One settler had reportedly run into one years earlier along a nearby railway line. Years later, Van Laird said the head lifted several feet and claimed that if they'd gone any lower, it could have struck the helicopter. This is known as the Corfu Island creature, sometimes called the Grecian dolphin. It was first mentioned in 2015 after this strange photo started spreading online, taken off the coast of Greece. We see what looks like some sort of dolphin-like thing breaking the surface, but it's obviously not a normal-looking dolphin. The photo was taken near Parga by a Scottish tourist named Harvey Robertson, who was on a boat tour with his family drifting through the sea caves, just trying to photograph the usual green color of the water. He didn't notice anything strange at the time, but later, while looking through his phone, he realized he'd caught something. In one photo, a gray shape rises out of the water. In the next, it's gone. Robertson said it looked like an elongated manatee. Some people just call this one a hoax, of course. Others think it may have actually been a real creature though, some sort of mutated animal. There's also another theory that this could be a surviving Ambulocetus, an extinct ancestor of whales. Here's some more well-known Sasquatch footage. Help, I think I saw a skunk ape. On October 28th, 2013, a Mississippi hunter named Josh Highcliffe uploaded an unsettling video to his YouTube channel. According to him, the footage was taken just west of Tunica, Mississippi. What he caught on camera looked like a large, dark, bipedal creature crouched low and almost hidden inside what appeared to be a hollow tree stump. At first, Highcliffe didn't think much of it, saying, "Initially, I thought it was a pig. Then I noticed these broad shoulders and a head held high with its hands. There was this huge black monster crouching near a dead cypress tree about 50 meters away. I immediately got scared and wanted to run away. I didn't even think about shooting. However, as soon as I realized that nobody would believe me, I felt like time had stopped. So he pulled out his phone and started recording, but then it stood up. And as it rose, it was suddenly clear how big this thing actually was. That's when Highcliffe panicked and took off." This series of images have become some of the most infamous sea monster photographs in history, aside from the Nessie photo we've all seen 600 times. Back in December 1964, a Frenchman named Robert Laseric was crossing Stonehaven Bay near Hook Island, Queensland, with his wife, kids, and his first mate. They just bought a motorboat and were basically living island life for a few months. While drifting over a shallow lagoon, Laseric's wife noticed something sitting on the bottom. It was massive, dark shape, stretched out and completely still. Laseric later described it as around 30 feet long, shaped like a giant tadpole. Smooth skin, no fins, no spines, no visible teeth, mostly black with faint stripes. Everyone on board thought it was dead, long enough that they actually got into the water to try and film it, and that's when it moved. As Laseric approached with the camera, the creature opened its mouth and started gliding toward them. They bolted back to the boat, and by the time they regrouped, the animal was gone. Photos of the creature spread in newspapers and magazines and quickly became infamous. Were these genuine images of an unknown sea creature, or was it just a case of clever angles? Or plastic sheets shaped and weighted underwater? Some said it may have been a giant swamp eel, but those rarely exceed 5 feet. And finally, we come to the undisputed king of unexplained creatures captured clearly on camera, the Patterson-Gimlin Sasquatch footage. Yes, it's been talked about to death, but not by me. This is actually the first time I've talked about the footage on this channel, which is impressive considering how many Bigfoot videos I've done. What can I say? This is still the best piece of video evidence we have for the creature. The camera is steady. We get a nice long shot of it walking across an open stretch of land. There's no trees blocking the view. It's not captured from too far away. There's just a reason why this is not just the best Bigfoot footage ever captured, but the best cryptid footage in general. There's still debate to this day as to how authentic this is. I've heard convincing arguments on either side, and it's really the continuing conversation surrounding this footage that's kept this one alive. People have analyzed every frame of this video, examining the creature's odd gait, what looks like muscle moving under the fur. Hoax or not, it's a damn intriguing piece of footage, and that's why it's at the top of this list. A ghostly intruder captured in someone's living room, shapes walking through rooms that are supposedly empty, a strange figure creeping around someone's property before vanishing. These are unexplained figures caught clearly on CCTV footage. If I were to tell you there was a mysterious figure in this image, what would you think I was talking about? I mean, you'd probably start scanning all the dark, shadowy areas, trying to pick out some vaguely human shape lurking in the corner, but no, the mysterious figure is actually the person right in the middle of the frame. Yeah, Nobody knows who that is. This image was posted to Reddit by Defend Aloha. It comes from a friend of his named Kimberly. One night in August of 2019, Kimberly came home sometime between 1 and 2 in the morning. She was gonna head upstairs to let her dad know she was home, but then she heard a strange noise. She quickly checked the main floor before going upstairs. Everything seemed quiet, but the moment she reached the top of the stairs, the home alarm system went off. Her phone lit up with a warning saying an intrusion had been detected. Her dad rushed out of his bedroom and tried to get the rest of the family into one upstairs room while he checked the house. Room by room, everything looked normal until he opened the door leading into the garage. The garage door to the outside was wide open. Around the same time, Vivint, the security company, called to check if the family was safe. And since no one was found inside the house and there was no immediate threat, they ended the call. But then another alert came through. The security camera in the living room had detected movement and sent a notification including a video clip. This was the thumbnail. The problem was, when they played the actual video, there was nothing there. They scrubbed through frame by frame. It was just an empty room the entire time. The figure only shows up in that thumbnail. And no, it wasn't Kimberly. She wasn't wearing anything close to what the figure appeared to have on, and it certainly wasn't her dad. So just who or what the hell was creeping around their house that night? This next clip was posted to Reddit by Gabber Flasm, who said the footage was sent to him from his mom's security camera. Watch the trees in the background here. Figure walks through the forested area behind the property and seemingly vanishes after crouching down. The Redditor said it's his brother in the video and that he never heard or saw anyone at the time. And no nearby neighbors would be walking on the property like that either. And even if this was some stranger skulking through the forest, what's the explanation for them disappearing like that? This next video comes from the YouTube channel Aloha Treasures. So this woman has security cameras on the inside and outside of her home and said that strange things had been going on lately. She'd been seeing things in the house, but she got confirmation one day when she saw a mysterious shadowy figure show up on the living room camera, standing in a doorway. So she jokes about how it could be her ex-husband breaking into her house, but I mean, yeah, it could be though. I mean, this is not a case of a bug on the lens or like dust floating around creating what looks like a shadowy shape. No, someone is definitely in that room. Ever seen a car accident involving a ghost? Well, you're about to. So these guys were cruising through the parking lot when something runs out in front of the car. A dark, shadowy shape. And this has nothing to do with the camera because the car stops and two people get out thinking they've hit something. Clearly they saw what the camera picked up. They look all over though, but find no signs of an injured animal or anything like that. Whatever the thing was, it wasn't there anymore. Reddit user 1ondo1ants posted this next clip. His motion-activated security camera picked up someone or something seemingly floating into his house. Luckily, there was no sign of an intruder though. In fact, those sliding doors by the back deck, they were always closed and locked up at night. So his mind was partially at ease, but not entirely. What the hell was captured on camera here? It looks like it floats right through the glass. The footage left him pretty shaken up, and he doesn't really like thinking about it. His grandmother had died just months before this was captured, and his mom thought it was her watching over them. Jennifer Kesey lived in Orlando and she disappeared in January 2006. She'd just gotten back from a trip and had been at work the day before, but she never showed up the next morning. Her apartment showed no signs of a struggle. It looked like she'd gotten ready for work and just walked out the door. 2 days later, her car was found abandoned at an apartment complex about a mile away. The complex had a surveillance camera that caught a person of interest parking her car and walking away at noon. But the footage is incredibly frustrating. The camera was set to take photos at intervals, and in every single frame, the person's face is hidden by the metal bars of a fence. And, because of the way the person was walking and the timing of the camera, the fence posts perfectly block their head in every single shot. Police couldn't tell if the person was a man or a woman or what race they were. They could only guess the person was between 5'3" and 5'5" based on the height of the car and the fence. The case has been cold for 20 years. John Wheeler was a high-level guy in DC. He'd worked as an aide for 3 different presidents. It was a big deal in the defense world. On New Year's Eve in 2010, his body was found by a worker at a landfill in Wilmington, Delaware. He'd been beaten to death and thrown into a trash bin. When the police looked at CCTV from the days before he died, they found footage that didn't make any sense given his background. On December 29th, the camera in a parking garage caught Wheeler looking totally lost. He was in his suit, but he was missing one of his shoes and was carrying it around in his hand. He looked confused and was wandering through the garage like he didn't know where he was. He told people at the garage that he had been robbed, but he never called the cops. The medical examiner confirmed that this was a homicide, but beyond that, the case is still a total mystery. Trevor Deely worked for a bank in Dublin. He went missing after a Christmas party in December of 2000. For years, the investigation didn't have much to go on, but in 2017, this CCTV footage was released. The footage shows Trevor walking home at 4 in the morning in a heavy downpour. As he passes a bank, there's a man in a dark hoodie standing there in the shadows of the doorway. As soon as Trevor passes by, the man in the hoodie steps out and begins following him. The camera further down the street catches Trevor again a few minutes later, and the same hooded figure is still right there, trailing behind him. That was the last time Trevor was ever seen. The police looked closer at the earlier footage. They realized the man had been waiting outside the bank for over 30 minutes before Trevor showed up. It looked like he was specifically waiting for someone. Because of the low camera quality in the hood, his face is never clear, and he's never been identified. On the morning of September 14, 2007, a boy named Andrew Gosden did something completely out of character. He was a gifted student with a 100% attendance record at his school in Doncaster, England. That morning, he didn't go to class. Instead, he waited for his parents to leave for work, then went back inside his house, changed out of his school uniform into a black slipknot t-shirt and jeans, and headed to a local ATM. He withdrew money, nearly everything in his account, and bought a one-way train ticket to London. The only confirmed footage of Andrew from that day comes from the CCTV cameras at King's Cross Station. He arrived at 11:20 a.m., and the video shows him walking to the station and heading out the main exit 5 minutes later. He didn't look at all distressed. Sadly, the police didn't actually pull this footage for 27 days. By the time they realized Andrew had even gone to London, almost every other camera in the city had already looped over its footage. So these short clips are the only visual leads they have. There was no evidence he used the internet to meet someone. He didn't even have an email address. The whole thing is just very strange. In December 2009, 30-year-old Stephen Kocher left his home in St. George, Utah, and drove his car 2 hours away to a residential neighborhood in Henderson, Nevada. He didn't have any friends or family there. He didn't even tell anyone that he went. The only evidence of his arrival is a grainy shot from a neighbor's security camera in a cul-de-sac. The footage shows Stephen parking his car at the end of the street and walking across the pavement. It's hard to make out, but he's carrying something, possibly a folder or some papers, and that's it. He never returned to his car, and he was never seen again. When the car was found abandoned a few days later, his keys and cell phone were missing, but his clothes and other personal belongings were still inside. His phone continued to ping in that area for 2 more days before it finally died, but searches of the surrounding desert and neighborhoods turned up. In June 2009, a man using the name Peter Bergman checked into a small hotel in Sligo, Ireland. From the start, his behavior was strange, and almost all of it was captured on CCTV. Over several days, cameras followed him, walking calmly through the town, always wearing the same black outfit and carrying a purple plastic bag. Multiple cameras catch him stopping at random locations, taking items out, carefully disposing of them in public trash bins. He does this repeatedly, methodically. It's like he's making sure no single bin gets too much attention. When police later reviewed the footage, they realized he disposed of every personal item he owned. No ID, no labels on his clothes, no paper trail. Even the name Peter Bergman turned out to be fake. On June 16th, CCTV shows him leaving his hotel for the last time and heading toward a secluded beach. His body was found days later, dead from drowning. There's tons of footage of him. We clearly see his face, but no one's ever come forward to identify it. Skinwalkers, mysterious figures roaming through the wilderness alone in the middle of the night, and ghastly forms bobbing in the river in the dark. These are disturbing creatures caught on trail cams in 2024. So just what in the hell are we looking at here? I don't know, but I can say for sure that I don't like it. They look like the ghost girl from Ringu poking her head out of the water. They're pale with long black hair covering most of their faces, if these even are faces we're looking at here. It's hard to tell. You'll also notice they seem to have glowing, reflective eyes. So the story behind this clip is that back in April of this year, a trail cam was set up right at the edge of a river where locals had been experiencing strange things, telling stories of dark spirits lurking in the water. Now, as for where the footage comes from, I've seen comments saying it's a river called Namor Ong. I tried to look up Namor Ong, and I can't find any info on that place, so please let me know in the comments if you know anything about that, or if Namor Ong even exists at all. Anyway, a pretty spooky clip. This next piece of trail cam footage comes from a TikToker named The Most Mandy, who posted this eerie footage captured by the security camera outside her home in the Appalachian Mountains. So we see a figure in a long white robe moving across her property, at one point saying, "Let me in this very craggly, almost witch-like voice. She gets closer and closer to the house until the motion sensors go off and she retreats back into the shadows. Here's another clip taken by a camera at another part of the house. We can hear the woman better in this clip, not that we really want to. Well, you know what? She sold me. I'd have let her in. I mean, how could anyone turn down such a soothing, friendly voice like that? Back in June, a hunter placed a trail camera in the woods expecting to pick up animals. Instead, he captured this odd scene. At about 2 a.m., a figure wearing what looks like a long dress steps out from the shadows and passes the camera. Who was this person and what were they doing in the middle of the woods at 2 in the morning? Well, they were running from someone or something. As the video continues, we see a dark mass crawl out of the depths of the thicket. As the thing gets closer, we notice it's crawling. It looks like it has long dark hair and reflective eyes. The rest of its face is hard to make out, but there's something not quite right about whatever this thing is. This next video was also captured by a trail cam in the Appalachian Mountains. It was posted by Elizabeth Maynard 98, who captured something incredibly unsettling moving across her property, and there were a pair of them. When they first pass by, it's hard to make out what these things are, but they're clearly walking on all fours. They move off camera before turning around and passing the camera again, this time walking on their hind legs, looking much more humanoid, but no less disturbing. They're incredibly thin with glowing eyes and look to be hairless, almost like your classic stereotypical alien. They also walk with this very unnatural gait, taking these itty-bitty little steps, almost like they're not used to walking upright. Some commenters also think these creatures look like rakes, skinwalkers, or possible wendigos, but what do you all think? This is a very strange post from about 9 months back by Reddit user What Did You Do, Ray?, who was seeking out help about the odd behavior he was experiencing with his trail camera, writing, "This trail cam is at a Christmas tree farm in Bedford, Pennsylvania. There are no buildings, lights, or structures in the area at all where this cam is. Every night for the past 2 months, my cam takes a picture at exactly 12:05 and 1 second in the AM. There is never anything in the pics. No deer, squirrels, foxes, etc. Recently, the pictures have shown a red light being cast across the top of the trees. One pic shows the red light to be extremely bright and def in a circle around the trees. And then there is the picture from March 5th of 2024 that shows 2 blurs, one directly above one of the trees and a very similar blur to the right on the ground just off the road. The odder thing is that this picture's timestamp is at 12:05 and 2 seconds. It's the only picture in the entire series of pics from the past 2 months that was taken 1 second later. Now, he also posted in the comments later that he'd switched the camera to take video instead of pictures at one point, and that the camera would successfully take video at any other time of day except 12:05 a.m., where it wouldn't take video when the sensor went off at that time, only taking a picture. Definitely strange. So the question is, what's causing this camera to go off? Well, something was hovering above the trees, casting a red light at the exact same time of night every night for 2 months. So this creepy footage was caught on a home security camera in Mexico just a few days before Halloween. Perfect. The homeowner had heard weird noises coming from his garage, so he went to check on his dogs. Well, the dogs weren't making the noises. They were totally quiet, actually. Not barking, they weren't growling or anything. He walks into the garage and we see this freaky figure crouched behind one of the cars. At first, it's on all fours, almost like an animal, but then it stands up and things just get weirder from there. One of the dogs finally reacts to this, and you can see this thing like stretching, like its arms and legs are almost growing. It's just lurking there half hidden, and the whole shape, it just looks wrong, like it's shifting or something. The guy gets closer, the thing crouches down again, and he just nopes out of there to go alert his wife. By the time they come back though, the thing's vanished out of view. So what in the hell was that thing? Well, it turns out there may be a specific name for it. Some folks think it might have been a nahual, a shapeshifter from Mesoamerican folklore that can take the form of animals. Alright, well this one sent a weird little spasm up my spine. Just watch this. Yeah, the more I watch it, the more I want to retch. What in the hell is in there? I thought it was some dirty water dripping out, more like dirty goo, because it's just hanging out of the tap. That would be bad enough to find as is, but for it to just suck itself back in like that. What kind of weird David Cronenberg horror? Seriously though, what is in there? It's not a spider, the movement is just too, I don't really know how to describe it, wiggly I guess. Spider would just like go right back in, but this thing, you do kind of see it dangle a little bit as it moves. I don't know, it just doesn't look like something that should be alive. Goo shouldn't recoil when gently brushed up against with a tissue. Anyway, enjoy brushing your teeth after watching this. Do you ever get creeped out when your pets react to things that you can't see or hear? We've all been there. Your cat suddenly freezes in place and just stares at an empty corner of your room. Your dog starts barking at the closet, only there's nothing in there. Well, according to Reddit user Derp Peepo, they posted this clip saying that their dog does this periodically. If you listen, there are some pretty obvious footsteps audible over his growling, they write. The steps were not audible out loud, only over playback. I always wonder what's going on, when cats and dogs do stuff like this. I mean, clearly something is freaking this dog out, but what? Dog senses are a lot more developed than ours. They hear, smell, and see way better than we can, which is why there's always been this eerie idea that maybe they're more sensitive to paranormal activity as well. Don't you just love climbing up into your attic to see what's making all the eerie noises at night? A Redditor by the name of Icy Maintenance 7511 had just moved into this tiny wooden house way up in a remote village in northern Italy. After living in the city forever, they were really excited to finally have found a place that was quiet and peaceful, but it didn't stay peaceful and quiet for long. At first, the house seemed cozy, but after a few weeks, weird stuff started happening. Mainly, they'd hear strange noises coming from the attic late at night, random thumps and creaks and bumps, but also sounded like something being dragged across the floor up there. At first, they just brushed it off as the house settling, but the noises got louder. That's when the Redditor decided, you know what, I'm just gonna try and find out what the hell is going on. So they climbed up to the attic and recorded this. Now amazingly, the Reddit user did something that nobody ever thinks to do in a horror movie. Just leave. Don't sleep there. Icy Maintenance 7511 said they were so scared they bolted out of the house and didn't even go back for their phone, which they left up there in the attic in a panic. They went back way later to grab it. Let me start by saying this video is scary enough without the spooky figure that shows up in the trees. It's just probably not the best idea to be driving a bike through a remote forest in the middle of the night. It's just dangerous. You likely don't need me to tell you that, but this person did it, so I know y'all are out there. So here we see this POV video of someone riding through the forest, again in the middle of the night. Everything is just a blur of trees flying past until the last few seconds. If you slow it down, you'll catch it. Standing off to the side, just barely visible between the trees, is this thing. It looks like a tall, faceless figure wearing a suit. These images went viral a few years back. Reddit user Love Is Evil Xanax uploaded a series of pictures back in 2020 that got a lot of people talking online. They gave some context for the images, writing, "My uncle has a trail cam at my old grandparents' house, who are both dead. The house is abandoned. The camera takes 3 pics every time a motion is detected. This thing only appears in 1 out of 3 of the photos. For more info, for anyone wondering, my uncle was up there and left. The trail cam caught him leaving in his car completely. trail cam takes pictures so fast it looks like stop motion if looked through quickly. This thing walks up 6 minutes after he left. It's only in a few pics, and the time says the thing was only on screen for 1 second. And the next picture, it's just gone. Never walked out of frame, just went away. From a mysterious figure appearing in a basketball coach's footage in the Philippines, to an unidentified killer in tactical gear roaming a Texas church, and unsettling 8mm film revealing a chilling discovery in the woods. These are mysterious, unexplained things caught on camera around the world. This first video showed up on a news segment in the Philippines back in 2003. So a basketball coach was filming one of his training sessions, just a normal day with the kids out on the court. Everything seemed fine, it was sunny, no drama, but when he got home and started reviewing the footage, he spotted something weird. In the background, across the street, a kid suddenly runs by. Now, why would this catch his attention? Well, the coach didn't recognize the kid at all. In fact, he didn't even see him there while he was filming that day. It was like the boy had just materialized into the video. He rewound the clip again and was totally creeped out. Alright, maybe he was just freaking himself out. Maybe the kids had seen this mysterious kid. Well, he had all his basketball kids watch the video too, and they all freaked out. None of them had seen the mystery kid either. And on top of that, they started telling him about how they'd had this strange feeling that day. Some of them even mentioned feeling cold chills during the practice, which made no sense because it was hot out. It was summer, it's the Philippines. Wanting answers, the coach had the video checked by a professional editor. After examining the footage, the expert confirmed the mystery figure was definitely there. There were no signs of tampering and no digital tricks. What you're looking at here is security footage captured inside a church in Texas. The identity of this person is still unknown. On April 18th, 2016, 45-year-old fitness instructor Missy Bevers was found dead inside the Creekside Church of Christ in Midlothian, Texas. She'd gone in early, around 4 a.m. to set up for one of her boot camp classes. By 5 a.m., a student arrived and found her body. She'd suffered multiple puncture wounds to the head and chest, and a hammer was also found nearby. Surveillance footage from inside the church, taken shortly before the attack, showed a figure dressed in full SWAT-style tactical gear, a black helmet, a vest, marked police gloves, slowly walking through the building. The person is seen opening doors and just casually smashing windows. They had a noticeable limp or some kind of awkward gait, possibly dragging one leg at times. Police still haven't even identified though if the suspect is male or female. Strangely, nothing was stolen either. Missy's iPad and personal belongings were left untouched. The church's exterior cameras weren't working that day, and investigators never released footage showing the actual encounter. It's believed that the killer waited inside and ambushed her. The 2010 to 2012 Nissan Altima was caught on a nearby store security cam circling the parking lot around 2 a.m., flashing headlights and acting suspiciously. That driver was never identified. Missy had also been receiving strange LinkedIn messages from a man before her death. We don't know if that's connected or not. To this day, even with all this footage, no one knows who killed her or why. This eerie footage was posted to YouTube by Chad Logan back in 2012, and it's been a complete mystery ever since. It's just 5 minutes of this creepy 8mm footage. Most of the video is pretty innocuous until it gets to the woods. Here we see the camera person following this old woman into the woods before we're eventually led to a cloth sack on the ground. The camera person gets up close to the bag and opens it, revealing what looks to be human hair, and then a full human head. There's only one other video on this person's channel called Bitterroot Photos. Here we see Chad holding up a series of old black and white photos which supposedly came with the reel of film that he received. For context, he was a student at a university in New York. He just moved into a studio apartment and needed some furniture. Found a guy on Craigslist that wanted to desperately get rid of his things at super cheap prices. He sold things in bulk to get rid of as much as possible. Chad bought a small table, and with it came a bunch of other random things, one being this old wooden box. He had to force open the lid with a screwdriver, and inside he found these old pictures. The word Bitterroot was handwritten on the backs of all of them. There was also a tin can that contained a reel of 8mm film. To this day, we've never gotten any updates.
At number 5, frozen footage. Reddit user TrueDenter shared a spooky work story that would make it even harder to get out of bed and head to work. He said that he worked at a place that required people to be there 24 hours a day. He was working the night shift and said the security on the building was pretty good. Bars on the window, multiple locked doors, the usual no one can get in without authorization setup. He said he was finishing up his shift when he heard a door close. After checking the cameras, he saw a person walking towards the room he was in. Thinking it was someone early for their shift, he waited, but when no one entered the room, the hairs on his neck started to rise. He said it not being a huge building, he would go and find the person from the tape. He came up empty-handed, but noticed a fire door had shut. TrueDenter said he went to look back at the footage, but didn't have the password. He then said he sat with his spine tingling until the morning shift came in. He told his coworker what had happened, and he went home. When he asked them what they found on the footage, they said it showed the fire door closing, but then the video froze for about an hour. The next thing the camera caught was him reopening the door. Talk about shivers, I would never work the night shift alone again. At number 4, injured intruder. Just Stoic on Reddit shared the story of how she had no idea there was an intruder trying to break into her house until seeing the footage her home's camera caught of it happening. She said that she was living with her godparents at the time. Her godfather had returned from work at about 6 p.m. and asked why there was blood near the pool in the backyard. Just Stoic said she'd been in the room right next to the pool the whole time, so she had no idea what her godfather was on about. They both pulled up the security footage from the day, and sure enough, they figured out the answers. The footage showed a man jumping the fence in broad daylight, cutting himself on their barbed wire above the fence, and frantically looking for a way into the house through the back. The user said she had been maybe 10 feet from the intruder at one point and did not hear a thing. Scary to think what could have happened if a window had been left open. Dang, not even safe from people trying to break in with barbed wire around your house. Number 3, bike be gone. One Reddit user shared his scary security footage story, and it's definitely a head scratcher. The user explained he used to have an apartment near his office building, which was kinda secluded from the rest of the city's commercial district. Anyway, he said that he sold his apartment, and before moving he left his bike chained to the building's bike rack. He figured the bike would be okay in what he called the no man's land for a few days. Then in the middle of the week one day, he came to the office and noticed that the bike rack was completely empty. Since his office was closed, he asked the IT guy to watch the security footage in order to catch the bike thief in action. The Reddit user said as he and the IT guy watched, they saw people leaving the office the night before, bike is still there, they kept watching, and all of a sudden the bike was gone. He said we slowed the tape down and literally it was bike there and then poof, gone. The user then went on to say he assumed his bike got taken to the upside down. If that happened to me, I don't think I would ever sleep again knowing my bike just vanished into thin air. Number 2, school prank or poltergeist. There is a secondary school in Cork, Ireland called Deer Park Christian Brothers School. In October 2017, they released footage from a school security camera that caught some sort of ghost causing a ruckus in the hallway. The video shows a door being slammed open, lockers shaking, locker doors opening, and even the wet floor sign gets thrown around. The video was a viral hit, earning coverage from a wide variety of outlets, with the school's deputy principal telling them he had no idea how things were moving in the video. Wolf said, "We couldn't understand how this had occurred. If it's a prank, it's very well done. After watching the video myself, I'm not even sure how a person could have pulled off the video either." To point even more fingers to it being a ghost, the school is built on a site known as Green Gallows, where in the 19th century criminals would go to be punished. And in the 19th century they weren't just throwing them in cells. Was it a tech-savvy student pulling a prank, or the angry spirit of a criminal? And at number 1, ominous elevator ride. You may already know the story of the Cecil Hotel and Elisa Lam. You may have already seen the scary footage of her right before her passing, and it's unsettling. Basically, guests at the hotel in Los Angeles complained of low water pressure in their rooms. This caused employees to head up to the roof and check out the water tank. Instead of finding faulty wiring or a broken pipe, they found the body of poor Elisa Lam. She was a young woman traveling on her own. Police were obviously called to investigate, and what they found on the security tape is creepy. The footage she appeared in before the incident was from an elevator, and something was just not right about it all. In it, Lam seemingly speaks to someone, presses all the buttons, and peeks her head out almost as though looking for a person she was scared of. The video has been dissected by law enforcement and conspiracy theorists, but we still have no idea what really happened to Lam. The footage is really ominous, and it only added more confusion as to how she ended up in that water tank.
A massive mysterious creature floating in the water for over an hour, twisting and coiling a giant hairy ape caught in someone's backyard, photos so strange yet so clear they still haven't been debunked decades later, and a tiny motionless alien in the streets of Sydney, a bipedal monster rising from a stump in Mississippi. These are unexplained creatures caught clearly on camera. And just so you folks know, there will be some more obscure videos on this list, some you've seen, but this is kind of like a best of cryptid footage. So anyway, let's get into it. What you're looking at here is known as the Marvin the Monster footage. It was actually lost media for a long time, but it resurfaced about 8 months ago. The story behind it is that in the early 60s, Shell Oil was using an underwater robot called Mobot to scan the seafloor off the coast of Santa Barbara, looking for oil deposits. During one of those runs, usually dated to February 1961 or 1962, the robot's camera picked up something very strange. Floating in the water was this large creature that didn't dart away or vanish after a few seconds. It stayed in view for more than an hour, slowly moving in a very specific spiral pattern. The thing didn't swim like a fish or drift like debris. It rotated and coiled in on itself over and over. Scientists who looked at the footage thought it might be some kind of colonial sea creature, which is basically a single organism made up of lots of tiny connected animals that kind of live and move together. But that was just an educated guess. We still don't really know what this thing was. The full recording was never officially released. Only fragments and isolated frames still exist. In 2000, the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office received 2 anonymous photos showing a large, hairy, ape-like creature. The letter that came with them was from an elderly woman who'd been noticing apples disappearing from her back porch. She claimed she snapped the pictures after spotting this creature, worried it might be an escaped orangutan. The images quickly earned the nickname Mayaka skunk ape and are still some of the clearest images ever taken of not just the skunk ape, but any Bigfoot-like creature, in my opinion. At the time, a bunch of skeptics pointed out that the creature looks similar to a Bigfoot statue that used to be displayed at a Ripley's Believe It or Not museum, but looking at that statue, yeah, it's a pretty weak comparison. I mean, they're both hairy, but that's pretty much where the similarities end. Reports of the skunk ape go back to 1929, and there are still reports to this day. Since 2010, sightings have been recorded in 48 out of Florida's 67 counties. Back in 2022, a man named Henry Hayes was out jogging in Merrickville, Sydney, when he came across whatever the hell this thing is. It was sitting on the street after days of heavy rain. In Harry's own words, "My gut says it's some kind of embryo, but with the pandemic, World War III, and the floods going on right now, this could very well be an alien," end quote. He grabbed his phone and started poking the tiny creature with a stick. It didn't move at all. He posted the video to Instagram. Some people guessed it was a shark embryo or a mutated tadpole. Others agreed with the alien theory, but even biologists were puzzled by the thing. Elia Lisa, a zoologist, posted the pic herself saying, "Hey world, what is this thing? I thought possum/glider embryo, but I have no context or scale and none of my peers can agree. What is this? Hashtag mystery blob." And to this day, we still have no definitive explanation. This video comes from 2001, but it was shared online in April of 2006. I remember watching it in the very early days of YouTube. It was one of the first supposed Bigfoot videos I watched aside from the Patterson-Gimlin footage. And if you're looking for a creature caught clearly on camera, well, this is better than 90% of the Bigfoot caught on camera videos you'll find all over the internet. And it looks pretty convincing. The fur doesn't look like something you'd see on a cheap costume, and there's shape to the creature and what looks like visible muscle under the fur. The footage was captured by a man named Harley Hoffman, who kind of went off the radar not too long after this video hit the web. Does that mean he hoaxed the whole thing and just didn't want to keep up the lie? Is the footage genuine, but he just had a hard time handling all the attention? Who knows? But when it comes to Sasquatch footage, this is still one of my favorite clips. This piece of footage was captured at a home in North Carolina. The video was posted to Reddit by Whole Negotiation 1843. The homeowners were terrified when they got a notification from their home security camera. They were expecting maybe a raccoon or something, but when they saw this pale, spindly thing he immediately called the cops. As for what to report, well, at first they thought it was some naked dude crawling through the yard, but it didn't take them long to realize this thing did not look human. As for what it was then, the case has yet to be solved. I don't have much context for this next clip. Apparently it's CCTV footage captured at a school though. It's hard to spot at first, but keep your eyes on the second floor. A dark figure dashes across the walkway at a pretty decent clip too. It's semi-translucent and impossible to make out any features. Is it just a case of poor quality camera, or is something more mysterious going on here? What are all your thoughts? Leave your comments down below. One morning at Wellington Indoor Market in Telford, England, workers showed up and immediately knew something was off. Boxes were scattered everywhere, across the floor and down the stairs. The first thought was that someone must have broken in overnight, so they pulled up the security footage expecting to see a person. What they got instead was a bit harder to explain. They watched as boxes suddenly tipped over and tumbled down the stairs. If you really focus, there is also a dark, shadowy shape moving up the staircase right before it happens. It's faint, but it's there, and what made it harder to brush off is that the market has been around since 1244 and already has a reputation for odd stuff. Staff have said they'll sometimes see strange shadows when working alone, and that one time, 2 people heard coughing in another part of the building only to find it completely empty. Doors slamming and hand dryers turning on by themselves have also been reported. Did you see that ghostly shape move across the field in the background? Nobody noticed it until they played the footage back later. This clip was posted to Reddit by a user named Elizabeth Greengirl88, titled "Captured a Spirit Walking Behind My Husband on a Security Camera." After people started asking questions, Elizabeth jumped in and explained a few things. The footage came from a security camera that sends alerts to their phone whenever it detects movement. At the time, they were out in their farmland, not near a road or other houses. She said neither of them smokes, and there wasn't a fire going on, so smoke doesn't really make sense, and honestly, it doesn't really look like smoke anyway. They don't have pets, and no one else was around when this was recorded, at least not that they know. She also mentioned that an older man used to live on the land before they moved in, and he'd passed away prior to them buying the property. In 2023, a restaurant in Portsmouth, New Hampshire ended up with a story it didn't expect after its alarm system went off late at night. The place was the Library Restaurant, which sits inside the old Rockingham Hotel, a building that's had a reputation for ghost stories for a long time. After the alarms were triggered, the restaurant shared security footage on Facebook showing what they believed caused it. A few seconds into the video, a white, misty-looking shape floats across the frame. Not long after that, police are seen in responding to the alarm. What made it strange was that the motion detectors that went off were inside the building, even though the movement was only seen outside. In their post, the restaurant explained, "Our building, the Rockingham, is well known for its ghosts, and notably the ones in the library basement. Last night, for the very first time, our motion detector alarms inside the building were set off by this camera motion, caught on video in the dead of night outside the window. The motion detectors inside cannot see what the camera outside sees. It is not lights from the car, because you can see how others are picked up, and there is no horizontal wind blowing, so what can this be? Make of it what you will, but this has never happened before." I don't know where this last clip originally comes from. Seems to be CCTV footage from a cafeteria or maybe a party room, but it is pretty odd. So the room is totally dark and empty, but then the door behind the bar lights up. A figure is standing by it. At first I thought it was just someone opening the door and walking in, but it doesn't quite look like that. I mean, I slowed the clip down and watched it again, and it's almost instantaneous. The door doesn't appear to swing open. Suddenly, there's just this figure standing there, surrounded by light. It could definitely just be a case of bad camera quality, making it tough to figure out exactly what's going on, but the video continues. The figure moves its way behind the bar, and you notice it's not totally solid. It's this vague kind of white shape. And then the lights flick on, and the figure just isn't there anymore. And someone else walks into the room. They walk behind the bar and don't miss a step. I mean, if someone had crouched down behind there, the person would have noticed them. They certainly wouldn't just walk by like that. I don't know, it's a strange video, but